Hi, welcome back to Cedar Porch Homestead. I'm JR, and today we're going to be harvesting compost. We've been building this compost up for about 6 to 7 months. It's finally time for us to sift it and sort it and get it in the garden. We're going to be adding to these raised beds, and I'll show you why right now. So as you look behind me in this low raised bed here, you can see that the soil has sunk down from our optimal level. We want it to just be about an inch below the ridge there. It's sunk down probably about 3 to 4 inches, and the reason it's done that is because when we put this bed together, we did a method called hugelkultur, and we put a lot of sticks and leaves and a lot of things that are going to compost down and create those water sponges in the lower part of that bed. Well, that's all started to break down a whole lot, so it sunk the bed down a little bit. So we are going to be adding a little bit of compost and soil to the top to fill it back up so we can get it planted for our second summer garden. So there's a lot of other beds here in the garden that we're going to be adding to as well. So we're going to get over to our compost pile so I can show you our plan of attack today. This is going to be our 3-tiered compost. As you can see, we are starting to add to this one because we've already depleted it. We're adding stuff back to it. This one's the one we're going to be harvesting from today, and this is the one that we are going to be not adding to, but we're going to let that start processing down, because that is going to be our finished compost in probably first part of the spring, and we'll be able to add that as a top dressing to the rest of our garden. Okay, so real quick, this is our compost that we're letting break down right now, and as you can see on the thermometer, we're between 90 and 100 degrees, which means this pile has cooled way off. Typically you want a pile, I think it's between like 140 to 155 degrees. So the way we're going to heat that back up is we're going to water it and turn it. And by adding that oxygen and moisture back to it, that's going to create that aerobic environment that's going to heat it back up, and we will start generating compost in this bed again. Okay, so how are we going to harvest this compost? Well, we're going to use our trusty wheelbarrow here, and I also made this sifter that is made with 1/4-inch welded wire at the bottom, because I don't want a lot of the chunkier stuff to be in the garden. I want mostly the fine, already broken down organic matter to add to our raised beds. So what we're going to do is we're going to sift out all the smaller stuff into the wheelbarrow, and the bigger stuff we are going to move over to our other compost and let that continue to break down. But it's going to be pretty labor intensive, and let's go ahead and speed this process up for you. Okay, so I sifted out my first wheelbarrow load, and we're about to take this over to the garden, but let me talk real quick about what we actually are adding to our compost. And we do it maybe a lot different than a lot of other people because of how we kind of cycle everything through our backyard homestead. So we have rabbits, goats, and chickens, and we use all of those animals to help provide our compost, along with our kitchen scraps, grass clippings, leaves, just things in the yard that fall off the trees. We put those in the compost as well. But the way we do the system is pretty unique, is because most everything except for the rabbit droppings and the goat droppings go into the chicken pen first, and we let the chickens use that as bedding, and they add their own nitrogen deposits to it. And after it's been in there for about 6 months, we pull out everything out of their chicken run about twice a year. And what we do with that then is we bring it over to the compost and let it continue composting down, because it's going to be really hot. And that's how we add a lot of the nitrogen into our compost to keep it really hot. And that's what helps break down all those carbons into some really rich compost like you see here. Most people think that our modern idea of compost has been around forever, and that's just not true. The modern way that we compost in most backyards was developed by a Brit. His name was Sir Albert Howard, and that was actually invented somewhere between 1905 and I think 1935, somewhere in there. And it was developed, I believe, in India, where he had a lot of labor to help actually start to find out how to compost scientifically. But it's composting in some form has been used throughout all human civilization, I believe, but most of it has been top dressing, of adding manure, adding things to the top of where you're gardening or where you're planting. Not so much as far as building great compost and soil like what was developed in the turn of the century. I really feel like the need for petroleum-based fertilizers that only concentrate on nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus would not be as popular as what they are now, because this is a great way of taking byproducts from just your surrounding environment and putting it back in the soil to create some amazing topsoil, amazing compost, and some amazing stuff to grow your fruits and vegetables in. Not only is this way of composting really great for your garden or your pastures, or really any way of adding some nutrition back to your soil, it's pretty price effective too, because if you go to the box stores and you're getting 40 or 50 pound bags of organic compost, you're typically going to pay somewhere between $5 and $15, and that's per bag. And I know for a fact that we have harvested probably at least 2,000 pounds of compost in the last year and a half here on my own backyard homestead. So when you do the math, we're saving quite a bit of money and adding a lot of good nutrition back into our garden. All right, so not only do we use our goats, our rabbits, and our chickens for compost, we have some real heavy hitters I keep right here in the wood shop, and that's our worms. And let me show you what kind of work they can do with regular old kitchen scraps. All right, so we use the old Worm Factory 360. We've had this thing for years, and we started off with 1,000 worms we got from Uncle Jim's, and I'll leave a link in the description below in case you're interested in any vermicomposting setups. But these guys turn just the old kitchen scraps into this amazing, I mean amazing compost, which is, I mean, kind of gross. It's worm poop. Worm castings. We're going to call it worm castings because it makes me feel better that I'm not just handling direct worm poop. But it's amazing, and we're going to go top dress our garden with this awesome black gold. All right, before I head out to the garden, let me show you how what is doing all this amazing work in here. And let's see if I can find a big old wad of these guys right here. These are red wigglers, composting worms, and they eat their body weight a day in compost. So when you start off with about a pound of these guys, then they're eating about a pound of compost every single day, and they actually multiply fairly quickly. So I would imagine I have several thousand, which maybe 2, 3, 4 pounds of composting worms just in these bins right here. And they take our kitchen scraps and knock them down into that black gold very quickly. And there's a lot of different setups that you can do with vermicomposting, and you can create some amazing results very, very quickly with some good composting worms. So the cool thing about this is we're just going to top dress and put a little bit around the top of some of these plants. And this stuff actually goes a really long way. And we just put that around the root base. So what we're doing by putting these around the root base of our plants is when we water, what that's going to do is it's going to push these minerals down to the roots, and we're going to get much healthier plants out of this. So as you saw, we just got finished spreading what I would estimate to be about 8 pounds of vermicompost. Now, if you were to go to the store and you were going to buy that worm castings, they come in like 2-pound bags. Those are $15 to $18 a bag. So you can see how by generating your own vermicompost using a worm tower with your own red wigglers, you can actually save a little bit of money in the long run while also turning your kitchen scraps into that black gold compost. Now, while using the the compost from our rabbits, our chickens, and our goats in conjunction with what we're able to do with our worms and the vermicomposting. Our goal is to create some of the most nutritious soil that we can for our raised bed garden so that we can translate that into our Back to Eden garden here in the future when those wood chips have had a chance to break down. If you're interested in how we got that established, I have a video I'll link below. Other than that, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you can stay up to date with all the stuff that we're doing here in the backyard. Leave a comment below. Let us know where you're at on your own backyard homesteading journey. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit that notification bell so you're notified when we come out with those new videos. And we'll see you on our next video. Thank you so much.